Hello, hello, hello. Let's let's hide this. Okay, go off video for a little bit to start. Load. All right, all right. So, um, first things first. Double Virgo. Your sun is on the nebula, which means in your moon. You're born on a new moon, like what, like an hour after, yeah, 2 hours after. No, no, yeah, like an hour, or maybe less than an hour after, really close to this new moon. Um, so Virgo, it's the opposite sign of Pisces, and it's a very misunderstood sign. It's an energy that I feel like people kind of have like a certain stereotype about Virgo, and then a lot of the most spiritual people, hold on one second. A lot of the most spiritual people I know, let's just say I get a lot of Virgo people, and um, it's not a coincidence, right? Because not only are you, and you probably didn't know about this, um, the fixed star Denebula, which is there's three fixed stars. I dip my toes into different types of astrology and everything, right? So Babylonian astrology has been around for a long time, and they're really fixated on the fixed stars. So to have your sun and moon right there at that degree of Virgo, um, on this star Denebula, the sun is especially close. It signifies right away that you're going to be a different type of Virgo than most. Um, Denebula is, very much about truth seeking. It's very connected to magic, the occult, the esoteric, and there were three stars that were really connected to astrology and studying similar things to similar studies. And the Nebula was one of them. So it's so hard to see which one's this. Yeah, so it's at 21, 24. Yeah, so it's right there. And then even on top of that, I mean, while I'm at it, you know, asteroid Urania, which is the asteroid that I see in charts of people. It's not necessarily like this person has to be an astrologer, but there's already two clues of that being something, that you could be really good at and really love. Because Jupiter makes it's already in Aquarius, a sign of astrology. So yeah, the Nebula and Urania already right off the bat. I usually don't look at these till way later. Very interesting. Obviously, being a sun and moon in Virgo is gonna and Mercury, let's not forget, is gonna have, and Mars, let's not forget. So quadruple Virgo. There's always challenges when you have a lot of the planets in one sign. With Virgo, it's about being too hard on yourself and perfectionism. And sometimes people who have a lot of Virgo placements are actually very chill and easygoing, right? You have your Mercury, which rules the mind, in Virgo, which is usually, it's very rational, but then it's square Uranus, which is kind of a very ingenious placement because it makes the mind think outside the box. Yes, it is a square hard aspect, but they're still connected. So you'll have an ability to mix a logical, analytical, observant mind with one that is able to see things for what they truly are, see things outside the norm, right? Almost like a rebellious type of thinking. And then when you, if you think of it as a square, you think, okay, well, what could the tension be? What tension could get created? Well, I would say the mind being, anxiety, the mind being too quick, the mind having so many original thoughts and ideas and downloads that it, doesn't really know what to do with them all and how to remain grounded. But and then also the potential for argument, being argumentative, or having a sense of, not dogmatism, but I would say with Virgo placements in general, with that much Virgo, you're always going to have to think about, okay, how much, especially with a Virgo moon, how much am I letting intellect rule my, like how much am I trusting my emotions, and how much am I, like, what, like, am I just looking at am I intellectualizing my emotions is what I'm trying to say. That's a lot of Virgo moons do that. And I always think of the person who is the kind of archetypal metaphoric idea of the person who goes to therapy for years and they don't get deep. They just talk about their problems. They just kind of converse about, instead of actually going into it and feeling it, right? Which is what the moon and the emotions are asking us to do on some level, right? It's not that a Virgo moon is it doesn't have a heart or isn't emotional. It's that sometimes, yeah, there can be a fear in going into that. Now, Venus. So yeah, there's two, I would say, hard aspects. So that's not so many. Three if you count. Yeah. So also, so this is very common with my clients. I see this. I've sort of found this trend. With that Uranus, which I feel like it probably plays a huge role for you because it really gets on well with the nebula, the Urania, these less obvious parts of you that, you might get a reading from a different astrologer who wouldn't be able to catch on to any of this, right? They might be like, "Oh, you're so logical, and you have to learn to not be so OCD." Like, no. Um, well, two things, can exist that at the same time, but that's not what I see. I think that most likely you had some level of shame early on, or you felt some level of shame early on for being so different with your way of thinking. Now, other clues, so I see that all the time, right? Mercury square Uranus. So that's someone who has different ideas and who fights for them. They're not willing to just, and because they're not willing to just, like, just go give into societal pressures. Now, when you factor in what area of life, what house is all this energy and all this Virgo energy? It's the ninth house, the house of Sagittarius, the house of truth, the house of ideas. So people who have so many of their 4 out of their 6 personal planets, right? The personal planets are the big three and Venus, Mars, and Mercury, and they each have a function, conscious function. So to have 4 out of 6 of them in Virgo, well, the house matters a lot too. So ninth house, that would signify that you're someone who spends a lot of time really trying to like you're very, very philosophical and you really care about learning the truth. So when you're someone who spends a lot of time learning about the truth and questioning things, with that ability to think outside the box, but also be very good at just analyzing overall, right? You're gonna have very, very highly developed ideas, right? So, and most likely you're not gonna be someone who's afraid to speak about them. So when you're coming up in this very, dare I say, matrixy world, um, I see, yeah, like I told you, I see this so much with my clients that there's some pain where maybe early on they were made to feel on some level like there is something wrong with their way of thinking. I'm not gonna say that, some people, a lot of clients I've talked told us to have said, yeah, at some point I believed I was dumb, and it was this journey, this process of getting out of that. So yeah, yeah. So it's an interesting combination of Virgo and the ninth house Virgo, because Virgo can be very, very stuck on its way of doing things, but the ninth house is very open, right? It's also about travel. It cares about experiencing things. So it gives a real Sagittarian vibe to your chart. Now, in Placidus, I want to take a look at Placidus. Yeah, you see, it changes, right? So in Placidus, it all falls in the eighth, loaded eighth house in Placidus, right? So, yeah, when you have a loaded eighth house, it so this can be looked at differently, where it is really this really deep energy of death, rebirth, transformation, and that being like a major theme in your life, which is also very linked with the esoteric and the occult, and you even having Venus there too in a different sign. It just, yeah, I mean, you have five in Placidus, you have five, you have every personal planet in the eighth house, and obviously the ascendant is the ascendant, but which is very fascinating. So I think regardless, there like, if you look at whole sign, right, and we're talking ninth house, it's just more of an external. Um, Eighth house is someone who still seeks wisdom, but there's more of an internal shadow work aspect to it. So an eighth house person is a type of person who, I'm an eighth house person, who is so different, who has changed, goes through so many major changes in their life, overall life circumstances, that it's almost like they're unrecognizable. Like the old versions of themselves are almost unrecognizable. Why is my iPad making noises? Disconnect this Bluetooth. Annoying. Esme. Oh, okay, let's turn the camera on because I got a little friend here. Let's see. Okay, Esme, you ready? She hasn't made an appearance. Then she hasn't been doing as much work lately. Esme, oh my God, Esme. Let's see the chart. Okay, Esme, do the thing where you look at the. You do not want to do this. Okay, look. Tell me where to look. What's important, Esme? Oh yeah, she stared right at the moon in Virgo, right at it. So yeah, moon in Virgo. It just goes. I think what. Yeah, I mean, Esme. Honestly, it is a real thing. The Esme, the hype about Esme is it's not fake. There's been some crazy things where I just hold her up, like look at what I need to kind of dial in more on, and she looks at something always. Sometimes she even meows when she looks at it. Sometimes she even paws it, and then she runs away. And she only comes to me during certain readings. It's interesting. I have to respect when she comes. But yeah, I think another thing about Moon and Virgo is that, and just all those Virgo placements, is that there can be and this is what's interesting if you kind of look at everything from this perspective, is that your North Node's in Taurus, right? So South Node's in Scorpio. So you definitely have this real ability to be like, the whole idea of letting go and surrendering is massive, right? But Virgo can be a little bit controlling, and the eighth house is, things are never going to just be constant, right? So yeah, it's curious kind of how those how you are in that sense, right? So I think one big area of life that I would bring up would be control. The need to be in control. Because if you are like that, then life will be a struggle, right? You know, so that's already right off the bat. That, I mean, that's just something that just stands out very obviously. This need to really really let go. Um, and it's interesting because the North Node and Black and Lilith, I it's just interesting that they're the same degree, because I would say the Black and Lilith of Taurus, which it's like you at your lowest, right? Um, it can be someone who's afraid of change, right? Someone who just isn't willing to they want stability and what's comfortable to them at all costs. So yeah, like a stubborn kind of refusal, like um to get out of the comfort zone. So it's interesting that North Node is with that because it's sort of speaking to how part of your biggest karma is around your shadow work, and that is one area of shadow that that needs to be looked at. But in that, because you have so much of an earth emphasis in your chart, let me see with all this, hold on. Even your rising, right? In Capricorn, like it makes me think of the root chakra and the need for you to still feel very, very grounded, right? And Virgo in general, it's psychosomatic. So being in touch with your body is very important. If you're overworking and it's not in the way that you're meant to really be working, right? Then you'll feel it. You'll feel it very, very, very clearly. Um, so yeah, let's see. Let's see elements. Right, that's what I was expecting. Well, yeah, because you have everything in Virgo, so there's not. Yeah, so you're gonna lack water, fire. You have some. I mean, you have Jupiter in Aquarius. So yeah, I mean that like it really is like when we think about the four elements, some people would say that, and you have a fire sign with your Venus, right? So it really is water. Um, so that would be challenge number one, right? Would be how can you find ways to be more connected to your emotions on a very raw level and not intellectualize them, whether it's journaling and or I like watching movies that make you cry or whatever, right? Just making like really like through therapy forming this heart-centered connection or whatever, right? That's one aspect. Then there's just I think also Virgo moons are just so analytical, and especially when it comes to trying to figure out who they can trust, right? Which I don't think is a bad thing. But it's very hard to fool a moon in Virgo, which can make them very good at business or just anything. Like there's this real logical realism with Virgo. And so I think the fact that you have all this earth, it makes me really think, South Node in Scorpio. So South Node is the been there, done that in past lives, right? So you've mastered water in a past life. So I think it's a good amount actually. And I've gotten to the conclusion in my mind that when someone has their South Node, like I said, which represents your been there, done that, the sign that represents your karmic tendency in one element, and then in their natal chart they have nothing in that element. It makes me think, and I've talked to people in the follow-ups who kind of confirm this for me, that they've sort of mastered that element. So not having any water, it might not be that big of a deal from that standpoint. Water being emotion, empathy, compassion, um, intuition, anything related to creativity and inspiration. And yeah, it just the water runs deep, it's that depth. It's the think of the signs of Pisces, Cancer, Scorpio, and people you know who have those placements, and just that gives you an idea. Um, So yeah, you're here to like Earth is really about stability, right? And it's about order. And Virgos, they like to have their life in order. And I think that what's really cool about this is that this is something that's new to you karmically, right? In this lifetime. So you have a ton of Earth, like a lot of people will have a North Node and then have no supporting planets, right? Like let's say someone has a North Node in Leo, but all their planets are in Capricorn and Pisces, you know? Like, okay, well, how am I gonna it just makes it extra hard. So for you, your North Node's in Taurus, which is an Earth sign, obviously, and then you have nearly all your personal planets in Virgo. So that's, very supportive. I think that South Node in Scorpio, a lot of times they have past life trauma. And in your case, it's show, yeah, square. Okay, so it makes me so definitely there on some level you lost. There's kind of like with the square of Jupiter in the nose. I always think of that as someone who is here to relearn how to have faith in something, in not just God, but just in humanity, just in general. Just that like they've lost their faith somewhere along the lines in their past lives, right? And because South Node is close to Pluto, so um, I would think that that would be speaking of some level of past life trauma being in Scorpio, and yeah, so hmm, I would almost think that that could be a fear or a trauma that would that could have come from a lifetime or lifetimes where you stood out, you did something on like your persona, who you were, was very, very different. And like kind of like it's like it makes me think of like the witch. Um yeah, like kind of like the witches that were killed. The witch hunt. That type of energy, which I feel like that might be something, right? Because like I feel like with that, let me get my special crystal. I feel like with that, there could be this fear of truly putting yourself out there. You could have all of these amazing ideas, right? But then there can be this sort of this fear, but also embedded in that fear, right? Pluto is where we have to dig deep in our own personal underworld, where a lot of darkness is. But then in that deep dive into the underworld, we find gold, right? We find the greatest treasure. So the idea here, it could be kind of scary for you to put yourself out there, but at the same time, it could also be where you feel like where there's tremendous power. It's like there's this dense ball of energy. And just with Pluto in the 10th, I think that people with that, they have a big time, um like their career and their dharma is super, super important. And so it's just accessing it, right? But and it can create a great leader. But yeah, there can be some darkness in different levels. So it can, like with this type of chart, it could, you're born 85. Yeah. It can sometimes take a while, right? Different different eras of life before, that person is really truly willing to dive in, right? And I'm not saying like, you know, try to become famous on social media or something like that. It really just reflects stepping into your authentic mission, right? Because like imagine if imagine if there's stored trauma in the superconscious of times where you did put yourself out there and it didn't go right, and perhaps and especially like an eighth houser like that, it can be very, very secretive, right? There can be like a very secretive energy where a lot of the talents you have are almost hidden from the world, and you're a very private individual. That's the that's the Placidus um understanding, but then at the same time, it does like when you're someone who spends so long and so much of their energy like finding truth, right? Compared and then other people just don't get it, it can be very, very frustrating. And then you can be the type of it can create a situation where you just kind of shut yourself down. And I want to do a little bit of numerology. 14 September 85. I knew it. I knew it. I knew it. I knew it. God, I'm undefeated in this so far. I just taught myself numerology. I mean, I'm not calling myself an expert, but or even close to that, but I get these intuitions and like because there's only four karmic debt numbers out of like all life path numbers you can have, and I think that's what like three times I've got this intuition to look them up to look up to see if you have a karmic debt life path number, and sure enough, you do. So I was reading this to my client the other day, actually, yesterday. So the person with the 19 karmic debt will learn independence and the proper use of power. They will be forced you will be forced to stand up for yourself and often be left to stand alone. Difficulties will be faced and overcome through personal struggle. One of the central lessons for people with this is that you stubbornly resist help. Much of your independence is self-imposed. You simply don't want to listen to others, to accept the help or advice of others. So that's a very you see how like well this connects with what I was saying before, right? Like Black Moon Lilith in Taurus. So part of your karmic journey is to learn to to accept that from other people, right? Where was that? Yeah, so self-imposed independence. So this 19 karmic debt can become a self-imposed prison if you do not open up um, to the reality or interdependence and the mutual need for love. Hmm. The most important lesson for this karmic debt is while you seek to stand on your own feet, you are still a human being, deeply connected with others and in need of support, of the support, assistance, and human understanding that all people need. Those with this will learn the hard way that quote quotes no human is an island end quotes, and we are all indeed all bits of the main. As you see, numbers represent both the best and the worst of the human nature. Numerology, in its own unique way, helps you to gain insight about your personal makeup and offers you the opportunity to take advantage of your strengths and to overcome your weaknesses. Numerology deals with the inner you, the important part of you that is often hidden behind concepts and expectations that are inaccurate or incomplete. Okay, this isn't part of the karmic debt. This is just like a closing paragraph. Yeah. So yeah, so you're a one life path that's 19-1. So yeah. Um It says here, yeah, and then so it says is life path number one is a driven and independent number, and the 19 karmic debt number indicates there is much to be learned in dealing with and overcoming personal struggles. You are likely to be required to stand up on your own and learn to be independent in ways that will not hinder your future progress, but also not make you into a one-man band. Although independence can be a powerful tool, you need to be more understanding to those around you who are there to assist you and help you in your life's journey. Be more open and receptive to the human connection. Yeah, because one is like the number of like the masculine, the doer, right? So it's like, yeah, just like being open to that is a very, very big part of your dharma. Yeah, self-imposed independence, not wanting to listen to others. So yeah, that ultimately it kind of goes back to what I was saying, right? Where if someone has is, likely very, very intelligent and has put so much time into their philosophies and their ideas of how things are, it can be difficult for them to take advice from other people. Now, when you add the fact that South Node, so in whole signs, the South Node would be in the 11th, and with Pluto, that to me would indicate trust issues, especially with friends, potential trust issues, right? And I already said that about Virgo, right? So yeah, and just being very familiar with the dark side of life. Um, so I think that's why like the dives into the esoteric and spirituality is so massive for you because it's through that you're able to gain a better understanding of yourself, who you are, who you're not, who others are and who others are not, right? So yeah. Now, with Taurus, also, it's about personal resources. So it's about moving away from the idea of over reliance on others, whether it's powerful people, because in the 10th house, like this could also be saying that there's, a very, very strong, powerful person, but perhaps they went a little bit too far in that and it took them away from this real spirituality in this life. It's about, okay, how can I get past any type of ego and not be stubborn, right? And it's fourth house, so um we're talking about that internal relationship with yourself and the balance between external life and home life, between your dharma, your mission, and going within yourself and fulfilling and having that strong connection with your inner self. So Venus square Saturn is your most difficult placement. Because you have Saturn in Scorpio, yeah. So Venus square Saturn can create lots of difficulties around self-love. Um, it definitely for a lot of people it makes it so they don't find their true soulmate, or they can have relationship issues for the first 30 years until the Saturn return. Um, and it is one of the most challenging aspects that exists because love and happiness are obviously two of the most important things in the world, and it just can make it kind of a challenge to achieve those. And a lot of people with this, they feel denied of love and happiness, right? And like they sort of have to stand on their own. And with all that Virgo energy, it could be that there was a lot of perfectionism in your family potentially, that you felt like the only way to really truly earn love was more based on performance, something of that sort. Um, I'm not positive about what I just said though, because there's not a lot of hard aspects from the sun or moon to really back that up. But that's a lot of times how it is with, you know, that energy. So yeah, this Venus square Saturn can make someone feel, Venus is how we love ourselves, and then how, so someone who's a very strong Venus, right, can have a lot of self-love, and then that makes their relationships good because it all externalizes. Saturn, it just creates a lot of boundaries, a lot of restrictions and things you have and things you have to get past on your way towards self-love, right? Now this one really it's very dependent on how much love you received from your parents, especially the father. And people with this, they definitely needed a lot of encouragement and support early on. It just, yeah, the self-esteem is, it's not like, it can be very sensitive, and if there was a lot of criticism or even abuse, it can really lead to depression in adulthood. So yeah, so I mean, it's not, but every square is more of an ample opportunity than is, it's not like a death, it's not like a, a weakness. Like like nothing in your chart is a weakness. It's just a challenge. So it's that challenge about going out and finding that self-worth, right? And inner love. And then Saturn gets better with age. So a lot of people with this, they have to work a lot harder on self-love than other people. And when you have all that Virgo, which it's so observant, it just sees every little thing, um let's say someone that has like all the Sag, like all Sag instead of all Virgo like you, they might not see anything, right? But the Virgo that they're doing, right? The Virgo is just seeing everything. So really it's about self-love, and this is where being a Virgo helps, because you can actually be very good at analyzing. And yes, I said the mind can be a little bit like really fast. So meditation is something you need to do. If you don't, you should be meditating for sure, and getting more and more into that right brain. Also creativity, anything in that realm. You're very, very capable, but it could be good to slow down, and if you're someone who's overworking, um just understand that it is sometimes even more productive to have a day off. I just saw some study or something that said that the study was talking about how people who take one lazy day per week, it's better for overall, for it was a bunch of measures. So um yeah, really, really analyzing the negative inner dialogue, right? And how you might hold yourself back in certain situations and criticize yourself, and really replace that. So doing what's it called, affirmation, right? Where you like, you sit and you meditate, and then when you meditate a lot, you start to see these things come up in day-to-day life, right? So it's like, say that there's this thing that's like, I'm not worthy of love, right? Or whatever, I'm not worthy of love, or I am not worthy of, yeah, like I am unacceptable, I'm weird, different messages like that. Really, to be able to feel them when they come up in meditation, have self-compassion. Remember, I told you a big part of your chart is that heart connection, heart. So really feeling the heart and being like your own best friend, and um replacing that with a very positive affirmation, like, I am worthy of love, right? And feeling that, not just saying it. It's about feeling it as you say it, right? So once you have a more positive self-image, that leads to that confidence, and this is actually a very good one for maintaining long-term relationships. So, a lot of people with this early on in life, miss out on romantic opportunities. They feel it's more difficult to be affectionate and to be vulnerable. But yeah, they can be very, very good, right? So that is that. Now, so Venus is also with the vertex, so that when I see that, I just think of that, that there's nothing to worry about in terms of like your relationships will be very faded. Um, and they will be your doorway to a higher awareness. It's going to be through everything I just said, like how you can love yourself. There's a direct, like it just completely parallels your self-love completely parallels the romantic love and the quality of it, right? All right. So yeah, you've had some rough past life. Um, so you are here in a big part to, even with all that Virgo, even things like working out, eating healthy, just finding a routine that works well for you. And you have Chiron in the sixth, so that is very common for healers to have that, where you want to be healing yourself and healing other people on a day-to-day basis. You could also have a very healing, like pets can also have a very healing energy on you, effect on you. Now, I haven't gotten to your Neptune rising yet in Capricorn, and I find that very, very interesting. Um, so once again, I want to just reinstate you have Virgo, but it's with the nebula. So you are a truth seeker. You really want to go deep into different areas, right? Now, Neptune, so yes, so this actually, you see, this is why everyone has to watch the full reading, because I see things. So Neptune is Pisces. It rules Pisces. So you have that rising. I'm gonna flip back to whole sun. But basically, like my cat Esme has Neptune rising, right? And it just so like yes, your Capricorn rising, that's the responsible one. It has someone come off in a way that sometimes can be a little bit it can feel a little bit cold, but very it kind of commands respect and gives this vibe of of honor, right? Now having Neptune though, Neptune rising is such an amazing placement, and this actually makes you very connected to spirituality, and it gives you a vibe to people like Neptune rising people have this dreamy look in their eyes, right? It's and they're very, very sensitive, very imaginative, very, very yeah, like I said, dreamy, and a lot of them are very creative, very artistic, and um, they do have to watch out for boundaries, but you have so much earth that I doubt that that's an issue. But what can happen with that is that people can project onto you a bunch because you have to watch out for that, right? Like other people's projections onto you. I see that a lot with Neptune rising. So I think mixed with Capricorn, I really do like those two together because the Capricorn is someone who like Virgo will be more steady in terms of how they how like they'll take their time before making a decision and going after something, more prudent, right? More reserved, cautious, you know. They're very good at making big plans and sometimes, yeah, sometimes they have to not take life too seriously, but very ambitious, and and they're able to really persevere and organize their life. Now you also have Virgo, trining it, so that gives even more energy, more energy. But the thing with Mars and Virgo, right? I'll get back to the Neptune, is that I've seen it in men's charts actually be way more difficult than in women's, which is interesting. But it can be sort of a Mars and Virgo can be very, very, I call it walking on eggshells energy with some people. Um, very, very, Mars is the planet of action. It's the planet that is ruling how we go, how we move, right? Our assertiveness function. So in the sign of Virgo, there can be an element of needing, of just being very, very obsessed with perfection, right? And it can be kind of it can be difficult for, if the person hasn't really found, I guess, satisfaction in themselves, they can, and they're still stuck in perfectionism, they can really push that out. I've seen a lot of people, like I did a poll a while ago, or not a poll, on my story. I was like, what placement do you have that you would change? And a lot of people said like Mars in Cancer, Mars in Virgo. So yeah, um, obviously it's very goal oriented, very practical, but um, yeah, I just feel like it can make someone too critical. That's just the way that I see it, and like they can just be so protective about their system for getting things done, like that, like I said, like I was saying earlier, they just don't want to listen to other people, right? So and also they can really, like, the shadow of that placement. The good thing is like super organized, really good with their health, all these very positive things. But then um who's crying? Ina. Yeah. I always say if I was gonna have like an accountant or someone that's working for me, I would want them that where it depends on like accuracy and really being consistent. I would want them to have Mars and Virgo. But and like a developed Mars and Virgo person, it can be awesome, It's just that when they're undeveloped, when they're at the lower vibe, there's just so much perfectionism, and it can be really difficult to be around them. But like I said, I've seen this. Like I said, I haven't seen much of the difficulty in female charts with this as in male chart. Um, but it can feel like you can't really just let yourself out in that sense sometimes with people with displacement, like just like family member of mine has this, and I feel like I have to really constrain myself. I can't just speak. I can't just like flow. you know if I just flow, they'll find something wrong, right? Even if it's like something, a way I said something, I'm just like, you get the essence of what I'm saying, right? So yeah. Anyways, it is very productive and very, very disciplined, and they're yeah, very clean people. I just think that, like, yeah, it's just nitpicky. It can like, just that alone, right? everything Virgo I'm talking about, it reflects that need for you to get over perfectionism, to understand that some days you're going to be at 100, some days you're going to be at 40, some days you're going to be at 50, some days 60. And on those days that you're, like at a 30 out of 100, still having a sense of humor and being and having self love and self compassion, self acceptance for, you know, who you are. You're not here, especially if there is programming around perfection, getting past that, right? So yeah. I think that by practicing patience within ourselves when we have this type of placement, that makes everything better, right? And instead of looking, because like sometimes Virgo can be a little bit negative and worry, it can worry a lot. So instead of looking at what someone might be doing wrong or what might be wrong about you, looking for, what's right, um, because you never really have to worry, uh, with this type of placement. You're gonna, you're not gonna, a Virgo, someone with this much Virgo, like, yeah, they have to learn about when you have a bunch of energy in one sign, learning about the opposite sign is super important. I'm going to get into that in just a second because it's very interesting that you have Neptune rising, because this is going to help you with that. Um, so I think, yeah, just like, and even relationships with like Mars in Virgo, and all these Virgo placements, it makes dependability, order. You're probably someone like me where, although it's kind of funny, like sometimes, like I've seen people who have tons of Virgo and you expect them to be like the cleanest people ever, and then they're just not that clean. But usually they are very clean, very organized, all that stuff. And they want partners who also are like that, right? It matters more to them. And also love language often is very linked to what I do, right? What I do and wanting like the small things that Virgo's very service oriented. So even like career wise, you could be into something that's very linked to being of service. But they'll what I love this about Virgo. Like they are like so they are very loyal and they will surprise people and they'll do small little things that they love. They really resent not being like it sucks, for them to do something amazing. I catch a ship up there. And then to not, it's like a little small thing. Let's say that, like their partner leaves and they clean, stop going here. How'd you even get through that hole? And then just like not getting complimented for it, or just like not getting, yeah. So they want to be, they want people to notice the little things they do. So, yeah, but it's very good, like I said, for seeing the details and um yeah, just kind of having this real order in your life, which is so good for all things business and anything anything that is linked to getting the job done in life, right? So yeah, leaning into your opposite sign. So when we have um Virgo, what does Virgo need to learn from Pisces? First, let's say, okay, what does Pisces need to learn from Virgo? Pisces is the dreamer. Anything is possible. So, but it's like I always give metaphors when I speak, right? So Pisces might be the person that has this amazing idea for a movie or a book or something creative or an an I don't know, an Instagram account of like their dream, but then they lack the Virgo application. So Virgo, but they have, they're very in their imagination. So Virgo is very good at having that practicality, but sometimes they can be a little bit pessimistic and not allow themselves to dream and be inspired enough. So also Pisces, a way Virgo can learn from Pisces Pisces is very, very good at trusting God and trusting that somehow, some way, things are just going to work out. Like you can look back at your life and think of times where you were stressed and you were just not knowing how the hell is this going to work out, right? Like how is this situation going to resolve itself? And then you can look back on them now and realize somehow it all worked out. So Pisces is very good at understanding and just kind of going with the flow in life, right? But sometimes Pisces, to their detriment, they're too much go with the flow, and there's not enough of that structure, right? So with the movie thing, yeah, they just have the idea and then they just give up. And Virgo's very good at understanding. Okay, well, I've leaned into my Pisces side, my inspiration, and because you have Neptune rising, you do have this energy, right? Um, I have this very creative idea. Now I need to, and then you go through a step by step process over time that actually makes the it makes you able to accomplish the goal. So, and what's cool about Virgo is that it's mutable Earth. So a lot, Taurus, Capricorn, these placements are a lot more stubborn than Virgo is. So I know I keep talking about stubbornness, but Virgo, like I said, it can be it can be stubborn in some areas, but then not in others, right? But it does love, you are here to find groundedness within your own body, right? I think yoga, meditation, all these things, anything mindfulness oriented, anything that engages your senses, touch, all that, you're here to do. There's a lot around root chakra work, and I wouldn't be surprised if the past life, there's some trauma there, and that it might not feel so easy to put oneself out, as I said before. But your dharma is very, very important, but there's no rush. So also I would say, like, with Neptune rising, being able to see the big spiritual picture is very, very strong. And it's like you have one foot in the physical Capricorn world, Saturn Capricorn, and one foot in the Neptune spiritual. Um, so that's nice, and that I think that's really good for your chart as a whole. But there can also be, and this I would say having Virgo placements would push a lot of this away with the harsh reality of how the world is. Some people with Neptune rising will just want to escape and isolate, but I don't see that so much in your chart. Um, yeah, Mika. Yeah, very, very yeah, definitely with your South Node, um, in Scorpio in this, it's you do have the ability to be a very great healer and to really feel other people's, have that sensitivity and um yeah, just it's just all about discerning people's energies and harnessing that intuition, the psychic abilities, and all that. And yeah, diving into, like, the eighth house, diving into the mysteries and secrets of the world that fascinate you, right? Um, so yeah, there's definitely gifts. A lot of Neptune rising people are very, very intuitive and psychic, and then your part of fortune is right on your ascendant. So that is very interesting, and that is essentially saying that when you are in your first house, when you are in the highest energy of Capricorn rising, so Capricorn first house, um, which first house part of fortune on the sun, I would say that when you're being independent and self-sufficient, that and having like a spiritual relationship with yourself, that's when you're at your best, right? And then with Capricorn, it's when you are building this lots of strong foundations in your life and a firm sense of inner self-worth and inner worth in general, and just your life has these strong foundations, right? um And yeah, like with Capricorn, sometimes the highest fulfillment is delayed till yeah, later in life post Saturn return, but that's fine. Um, because the goal is to get past any emotional insecurities um before that point, right? Mm. So back on the Pisces or the what I was saying about being psychic potentially or having you know potential abilities in that realm, you have Uranus in the 12th. So that right there, my friend, is I just call that the just like that's just all about downloads, right? That's just like download central. So your meditations, your dreams, all that can give you can have just these lightning strikes of cosmic information that just come to you and you're like, wow, like what like, where did that come from? Right? Uranus 12th house is an amazing placement. And sometimes people feel a little bit lonely and alienated, like they don't really belong in this world, in this very noisy world. Um, but yeah, there's definitely like so many skills there. But definitely lots of, especially like with the Mercury, like, yeah, people with this usually are quite misunderstood when they're young, when they're growing up. Um, and yeah, what else can I say about that? I would say even like if you think of the 12th house as um parts of one's personality that were usually not encouraged growing up, it could have been that your individuality and your um this Uranian energy, right? Which you have Jupiter in Aquarius. So, this it's you are very humanitarian and you are very good at being an individual, right? But it's just like think of Uranus as is that person, the road less traveled, right? So perhaps being non-traditional was not allowed as much for you growing up. Um, so yeah, it's very, like I was saying before, it's very likely that there's high expectations of you growing up and maybe your parents expected a child, you know, or expected you to be a different type of child and had different expectations that were, difficult for you to live up to, right? And you didn't want to live up to them. So yeah, usually people with this they lack that level of acceptance from their family early on. But also because it's like a very secretive house, it can create someone who's like a secretive rebel in some way, whatever that means to you. Um, but yeah, usually very like annoyed by like social conventions and yeah. So I like it a lot. I think Uranus really enjoys the 12th house because it can express this individualistic energy in the realm of spirituality, right? Of the collective unconscious. So yeah, I would say like mixing this with your Jupiter, you could be a very humanitarian person that's very, very concerned about different injustices. That could even be like linked to your work. And yeah, yeah, so I just I'm kind of making all these connections right now between, being denied, um or maybe like feeling shame around your being your unique self, um denied the right to be who you really are early on, and then how all those Virgo placements would work in conjunction with that. So it really is just embracing that weirdness, that we all have. Um, but yeah, it's really, really like another great, like, and it goes back to that Chiron placement in Gemini, right? Where you can be ashamed of your very original ideas with the square to Mercury. And yeah, like it creates a very smart person, very outside the box thinker, but maybe afraid to contribute these insights, right? So yeah, so I don't know, it is interesting. And if you think of the Virgo's eighth house, maybe it is someone that can alienate themselves a little bit or feel a lot like the black sheep. Um, so yeah, it's all about learning to channel that in the correct way, right? Um, and finding other like-minded people who can, you know, who you can, really express your original ideas with. Um, and it goes back also like to just this real, like it can, like I said, it can manifest in anxiety and nervousness and just like this real kind of internal electricity, right? Um, so yeah, just like meditation once again, physical exercise, super beneficial because it can kind of make things like a little bit chaotic and whatnot, like how one acts. But yeah, you feel most free when you're on your own. When you can really rich, it's not about like all it's that balance between retreating from the world because the North know where it is, but then also in that time when you're alone, you're able to kind of be in your own energy. Um, you find, you can get these amazing downloads that come from who knows where, right? And it's very inspired, right? So very creative, outside the box ideas. Um, so people with this sometimes can be like people who are like artists or who have some type of inspiration in their alone time that boom, it clings them to their purpose, right? They find that within, and they're connected to the collective unconscious, right? So they can really tap into that. And once again, yeah, very strong intuition, psychic abilities, all that. I would say also 12th house rules, sleeping. So it makes sleeping super important for your well-being. And going back to Virgo, like, it's Virgo are good at having schedules, and so just like making sure that you're not yeah, not overworking, all that stuff. Um, Sleep is really, really important. Getting enough rest and paying attention to your dreams, right? Because they can be they can you can get a lot of information from your dreams. So and then just overall, this plus the Neptune, yes, you have like the Earth placements that are good at making those solid boundaries, but just like you'll absorb a lot of the energy of around you, whether that's where you work, who you live with, whatever. So it's just important to know that and to have that discernment of of what you let in your life, right? Um, yeah. Mm. But very, very good at understanding the sort of collective suffering that people go through, and it's nice in that sense. Now, you have Jupiter retrograde also in Aquarius. So Jupiter retrograde people, I always think of them as like they're very, very philosophical, but sometimes it's more of an internal type of philosophy where they're really like questioning a lot of things on an internal level. Jupiter in the second house, I love that because it makes it so I always call it the financial guardian angel because a lot of people with that, they aren't necessarily here. And, eighth house, in whole sign, eighth house Venus could be good for inheritance or maybe even marrying someone where, you're being able to, not like in a gold digger way, but where, you're not meant to struggle in the financial sense. And yeah, Jupiter, second house, like I always give this, I've said this so many times, I'm gonna burn out how many times I say this example, but I always say it's like the person who has they lose their job and then 2 weeks later they get hit up messaged by a friend who they're somehow their company is hiring and they have like a way better opportunity and it just kind of works out. Here's Mika. Mika. Give me a kiss, Mika. Mika, kiss. Love you. Mika. Mika. One more. Let me see. That's the animal. Mika. My baby. So yeah, it's an amazing place to have Jupiter. So yeah, it gives a lot of talent for making money a lot of the times. And yeah, success can come sometimes more effortlessly, right? And with all that Virgo also, lots of abundance and all that. So yeah, I think in Aquarius, I mean, Jupiter makes everything bigger. So yeah, it can just make that person really want to stand out and be in their individualistic self. They might need a good amount of space and relationship and yeah, very generous, very humanitarian, and want to do something that really benefits the world. So yeah, very good, like very good for earning money also. And it's also the house of self-worth. So a second house Jupiter person, usually that is very good. It's good in that sense, for self-confidence. So it gives a boost in that area of life as well. But the only thing to watch out for is being too attached to money and earthly possessions and stuff of that nature, and wanting to expand that too much. But then it squares Pluto, so I think the lesson there is just yeah, really learning to keep that confidence in yourself even when life delivers the blows, right? Because it can kind of people with that sometimes can range from being like overconfident to completely lacking in it. So it's about finding that balance between the two, right? Goes back to what I was saying about the Virgo, of like the days that are 30 out of 100, the days that are 80, and just kind of keeping that good energy. Um, so yeah, just like karmically, really, really about refinding faith. Um, and yeah, just developing whatever, yeah, creative outlets. Um, whatever it is, that helps you find this balance, right? Creative, physical, all that stuff, right? Because a lot of times the South Node in Scorpio, they with Pluto there, they can yeah, there could have been past lives where they were cheated or there's traumatic endings, deep emotional wounds from past lives, right? So it's like can be hard to trust. So it's really about yeah, finding that stability and yeah, just really developing that self-discipline with respect to your creative goals And yeah. I'd say like also like in a romantic level, like Venus and Leo, they love just fun and creativity in their relationships. You know, along with the Virgo energy of really, and you know, your Juno is in Libra, right? So close to your midheaven. So it does create like, yes, someone who's reliable, someone that you can really that is consistent, that you just can trust that they're not going to just switch up and change. Like, you know who they are and you can depend on that day to day, year to year, right? Um, then Juno is more like our ideal mate. So in Libra, it is, really about this this fairness in relationships, like this peace, this harmony. Um, and then also, wanting someone who is passionate about what they're doing, right? Um, who cares about their career, their contribution to society. Let's see here. What did I just do? Oh, degree is it? Hmm. Yeah, so it is also just yeah, I think Venus and Leo, yeah, it just makes one value creativity and you know, whatever it is, whether it's like acting, dancing, drawing, having that creative outlet, writing, right? And they just want to surround themselves with people who just like being alive, who just who have that sort of essence, right? They want, and they can love the glamorous, the luxurious areas of, things in life, design, things looking nice, but yeah, just with romance where it's fun, right? So kind of a level of joy and yeah, sometimes they can be a little bit of divas, the Venus and Leos. So it's just not, about not like, yeah, but it doesn't really go with the rest of your chart in that sense of like um needing to be admired like so much, right? Because Virgo is a lot more it's not like that, right? It's a more conservative typically. But yeah, very generous, I would say. Um, but watching out to not allow your self-esteem to be too tied up in, how much positive feedback you're getting back from your environment, others around you. Hmm. But yeah, very generous. And yeah, a lot of Venus and Leo people, they care about status and um, sometimes they I would say challenge wise, it can be like being attracted to people who are kind of like the center of attention. That goes back to the Juno and Libra of wanting that balance and that fairness, that 50-50 in the relationship, right? So yeah, very good for creative careers. Mm-mm. And just like I would say like the more you're able to lean into your inner child, the better, right? With the vertex there too, theories. Um, it really is reflecting that balance of seriousness and fun, and just being able to like let go and just yeah. But even like backing up even more, sorry, I'm scratching like a bite or something on the back of my head. I keep peeling it off. But being born on a new moon on a karmic level, it's just, this lifetime is really a new beginning, right? In a lot of ways. So leaving behind that South Node in Scorpio, Pluto, darkness, and learning to trust and learning to just allow, whatever life throws at you to just, that's the way it is, and just moving towards that, is very, very important. And understanding, like seeing things, where's my water? Seeing different challenges that come up as challenges, right? Like difficult things can come up in life. Some people see them as challenges. Some people, you know, play victim and yeah, victim of the world type thing. But yeah, people with North Node and Taurus, like they become more and more grounded, um, as they get older. And it's really, like I said, about self-reliance, um, your own rules, right? I always say it's like a constitution of yourself, and it goes hand in hand with your self-esteem and just having stability in your life where you're making decisions based off of your own set of values, not other people's or society's. Um, but yeah, most people with the South Node in Scorpio, like the first part of their life was, there can be different traumatic events, different crises that can lead them to kind of having their guard up early, later on. So yeah, it is like just like once again with the square to Jupiter, the nodes, like such a major theme is about just trust, just trust and diving into that Pisces opposite sign. So trusting yourself and trusting the universe, right? Because the more you can trust those two, you just become more confident. Like in human design, a lot of people have a profile. I don't know what yours is, but just universally, right? Where they're meant to let things come to them. Like we live in a society where we're told to push, 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 but that isn't necessarily how it works for most people. For a lot of people, it's about, um, really just, of course, doing your best, but also just allowing things to come to you, right? So it's like the idea of the person who, like, let's say, like, they're have a business and they're just pushing so hard, like let's say easy example, astrologer, just pushing so hard for maximum growth, maximum clients, which yeah, I mean there is that fine line between complacency and where laziness, complacency, and then pushing so hard. But it really is just it does kind of show with the North Node and Taurus that um that good things come when you do the work for yourself, right? When you're really grounded in your own energy. So yeah, I think another big aspect of that, yeah, it goes back to the home. It goes back to, having that real stable environment, whether it's a family around you, and especially if it's something you lacked as a kid. Um, so yeah, but sometimes people with this can have like almost like an unconscious attraction to crisis. So, and that's kind of what Pluto talks about, right? It's like if that is what is like, so some like I always give the example of like the girl who grew up with a ton of drama and crises around her, and then when she gets into relationships later on in life until she's healed those aspects of herself, what feels safe might be those very toxic, like crisis ridden relationships, as opposed, and when they're calm it can feel a little bit off, right? Because like Taurus is all about peace and Scorpio is all about intensity. So it really is just kind of looking and saying like, am I consciously or unconsciously attracted to drama and to um these types of energies? And yeah, really just moving towards groundedness, right? And that focus on the self and not paying so much attention to how others are living and not seeking that validation from others, right? But there's a lot in your chart that like is I would say is like the like kind of natural psychologist energy, right? Understanding how people work. So I think, having all this Virgo, right, with the Taurus North Node, it's like with the South Node in Scorpio, to me, when I put that all together, I think, okay, perhaps in past lives, you were so drawn to whether it was power, whether what even oh, I see two. Um, whatever it may have been, like kind of otherworldly experiences. It doesn't, just whatever it might be, where you didn't pay enough attention to yourself, to the basics of your own life, the mundane everyday life stuff. So that becomes like very, very important in this lifetime. Um, so yeah, finding value within yourself um, is kind of the key to self-esteem. Yeah, but I can't stress enough like how that South Node journey, because we sometimes we fall back on our South Node, and moving towards that North Node, it really is just about, self-definition, right? And getting away, because one of the weaknesses I've seen of this is um defining the self-worth through others, right? Um, so because like in past lives, maybe there was that craved validation from other people, from a partner. So yeah, it's just really important to kind of know, that you don't have to do anything to prove your worth, right? You are who you are, you're amazing. And um if someone doesn't align with that, then that's not anything related to you. It's just that it's not a good match, right? When a metaphor I can give about like South Node and Scorpio, North Node and Taurus is like you're here to relax, you're here to have harmony, you're here to create heaven on earth in your own life, right? And there can be so much noise. So that's why when I talk about the eighth house, I also talk about letting go, right? There's certain people and certain ways of being, unconscious habits that we just have to let go of, right? And it's like it's like noise, like metaphoric noise. You want to have that level lowered, right? And then it's in that place where you can be, Taurus is very much about being in the here and now, mindfulness, right? And that is really you at your best. So also Taurus North nodes can really benefit from spending a lot of time in nature, being outdoors, really connected to Earth. So, yeah, that's another great that's something that Taurus North nodes really benefit from. But it's not always so easy, right? The nodal journey, it is like a metaphoric mountain that you're trying to climb up. So, um, yeah, I definitely think you'd be a very good parent if you have kids. Um, and I just think success for you, like definitely a very good chart for success. And just being a very responsible, successful person, right? Because Saturn has the nice sextile with the sun and the moon. And and I think also, yeah, with Mars trying Neptune, that's a nice one for your chart because that is just very, very good for like inspiring other people. It's a lot of musicians will have an aspect like that, just very artistic. And I think with having a Mars in Virgo, having it trine Neptune can add, it can kind of take away some of that overly critical energy and stimulate some of that, Piscean Neptunian energy, right? So yeah. Because sometimes Mars and Virgo people can be a little bit bossy and they like it needs to be done their way, but this can yeah make people like very good at motivating others without being too forceful. So yeah, very yeah, kind of and it just gives like a lot of spiritual courage to kind of do things in your own way and to develop your own spiritual path. So yeah, like I said, very, very good for anything creative and yeah, also it speaks to like the social activism, humanitarian service to others, fighting for the underdogs type energy. So yeah. I think Mars trying Neptune people usually don't have much trouble finding romantic partners. 'Cause it is quite romantic and sensual. So yeah, it can kind of create, especially Neptune rising can create that mystique and that mysteriousness that people find attractive. But once again, Mika, yeah. Esme, like I said, has that. I always look at Esme, I'm like, she just has like the eyes of the universe. So it could be like that for you as well. Saturn in the 11th. So that one is interesting. I always look at that one as someone who, um, they might not let people in so easily when it comes to friends. A lot of times they meet their best karmic friends post Saturn return. Um, yeah, they're just more like the mantra is like I'd rather have a few really really good close friends than a bunch of kind of whatever friends, for lack of a better term. And mm, Yeah. Also, another theme I see is making sure you're able to like, I mean, it can be difficult to forgive. Um, yeah, it can be difficult to forgive, but yeah, I mean, Saturn Scorpio, it's very good for self-discipline, but sometimes it can block some of that energy, especially for the first 30 years, that transformational energy and that energy that's needed to let go and to kind of allow these big changes and Mika. So it can create some restrictions of around like truly diving deep into those areas. But I don't know. I think it's a good combo of the two. Because whatever you do it with a level of intensity. But yeah, once again, it is another. I just see these all over your chart. It's really asking. There's just that need to learn when and how to let go, and it can be difficult for that placement. And also like on a physical level, right? It can you know like it could show up as like holding on to anger, and with all that Virgo, because it's so psychosomatic, that can show up in the body. Um, even like the kidneys, the gallbladder, right? So yeah, the negative side of that can be, like I said, stubbornness, revenge, not for kind of, yeah, having difficulty with forgiveness and just holding resentments in, right? So if there are any health problems, you can really relate it to all of these. And that's I think a neat thing about a chart like this is that you can really like if like like you can learn so much about your internal workings through cat hair all over my face, through how things manifest physically. And I think that, work wise, midheaven in Libra, so Venus ruling, the in Leo, like it could be like really a link of like what's really, Libra, Venus. So obviously wanting a level of beauty in your work. I mean, I would not be surprised if you're an artist, but then the eighth house Venus, sometimes I see that, and it's people who have like this hidden artistic talent, right? And when I go back and forth, I know I said ninth house Venus before. I'm mixing two different house systems here, right? But yeah, like then Pluto being close by the midheaven, that just creates someone who just has so much power, so much to give when it comes to their career, right? Very like, powerful, and they can really transform those around them. And they're definitely here to be leaders rather than followers. So, a type of career that allows you to really get to the bottom of things, like psychology, anything like psychology, astrology, anything like that is really, really good. Um, that gets you like deep in the human psyche. And even like Vesta and Scorpio would double down on that, right? And that can give this like one, when you find what you really love to do, this intense commitment and almost obsession with your work, right? This real dedication. So yeah, then Palace Six and Gemini, I think Palace Six just gives someone like a very there's just like a very intelligent and wise approach to daily life when it comes to like getting things done, schedules, all that. And also just, yeah, very gifted healer. And with Gemini, I think there's just this very this mind that can grasp a lot of different things, very adaptable, good for writing, good for seeing different perspectives and kind of being able to talk to and understand people from all different walks of life. So lots of themes in this chart, lots of themes. And I think just the serious, I think of it as like not even, it's like a second moon sign, but like obviously not even close to as strong. So in Leo, it's just like, you really feel nurtured and you nurture others when you are able to be in your inner child and when people are able to bring that out of you, right? Um, and when you're able to, yeah, to kind of when people encourage you to dive into your creative talents and when you in your it's just like yeah, this sort of creative this love of fun and enjoying things, right? So with Virgo moon, that can obviously be more measured, but yeah, I think like there's so many things in your chart that are pointing at someone who wants to get to the bottom of things, someone who wants to understand the depths of reality and most likely have a career or dharma that reflects that. Because like even Sirius in the eighth, I feel like people with that like they really feel good when they're diving into metaphysical matters, and also when they're experiencing like their deep and their intense emotions, right? Which is, like I said, such an important part. So um yeah, and just being able to embrace new beginnings, which is such a big part of your chart. Also, I want to say one other thing about education and traveling. Um, those could be, two areas like different cultures and just like different viewpoints on life, different philosophies, just always being open to like the idea that I know nothing, I know nothing. And I think that in whole signs having all these planets in the ninth, you could really, really benefit a lot from travel and yeah, just experiencing a lot of different things. So yeah. All right. Well, let me check one more thing. So you have the follow-up, I believe, right? Don't do this, don't do this. Okay, there we are. Let me just check. Yeah. So so yeah, with the follow-up, a lot of people what they do is they add the current astrology. So follow-up is is 1 hour. We just talk about everything. We compare your lived experience with what I said here, obviously knowing nothing about you. I'm just speaking directly from the chart, but it is kind of like a puzzle that we put together. Um, Two people could be, have the exact same chart. They can find someone who's born exact same moment, same hospital, all that is you, and you guys will have very different lives because of free will, right? And there's different elements. I'm not going to get into that whole philosophical discussion, but the point is that you know it's I'm not a fortune teller. I'm seeing what I see in the chart, and then you're reflecting it back. Essentially, you're taking it in, and I always say that I could deliver the best reading to someone, but if they're not ready to hear these things, if they haven't looked deep within themselves, luckily I've been blessed with amazing clients who have, been looking deep within themselves. And so I keep touching my face, but cat fur everywhere. Um, so yeah, it really is like both of us working together in that sense. So as I was saying, I would be happy if you want to add the current astrology. So this never changes. This is the natal chart. This never changes. It stays the same. Um, and we'll have the follow-up. So I always like people to take notes, and I know you as a Virgo, you'll take your fair share of notes, and we can go over everything. If there's anything that was off or any discrepancies, I always like to know about that, and then I can look at the chart and I can see, okay, interesting, that's why I was like that. But um, yeah, so it's very, very good to connect. So you have Hecate, so I see this with a lot of my witches. I know I mentioned witch. You have it with your Venus, so that is like I'm not like big on the asteroids, but that's when I see a lot, and just the idea of witch energy, what potions, ceremonies, astrology, tarot, whatever it is, that is something that you could really enjoy and even make money from with Venus, and just yeah, it could be your work, because remember that your midheaven is ruled by Venus, so Venus is with Hecate, so it could be someone who's doing spiritual work. All right, talk about Urania and the nebula. So yeah, it looks like those are the asteroids and big stars. Cool. So yeah, let me know. So I'll give you a deal. Usually it's like a lot more, but I'm gonna offer the current astrology for 270. It's usually like three or maybe even 400. But basically, so it's your choice. You just have to get back to me. Get back to me on email if you can, jesseannisonastrology@gmail.com. And basically, so the follow-up you already have, it's an hour. Like I said, we're just going over this. I differentiate the two types of astrology because they're very, very different. Um, so a lot, like I said, probably the majority of people, they add the current astrology. So hour one is the follow-up, and then it's a seamless move into understanding how the current astrological forces are affecting you and the year plus ahead, right? So it's like more predictive astrology. Um, I always metaphorically liken it to the astrological weather, right? So like I could be giving, for example, let's just for the sake of argument or of just the sake of giving this example, um, let's say that you're instead of 21 Virgo, 21, 22 Virgo, let's say that your sun and your moon were at 1 Aquarius or 29 Capricorn, right? You could be getting this reading and just feeling like because you have Pluto right exactly on those 2 points, that would just make everything just so like it's just so important to know about the big transit. Like for example, me, I have Neptune on my sun and my Mercury, and that it's not a permanent thing, but it colors the the filter of reality, the energy for you for that period of time. Right now, we're all going through a really tough time with Saturn in Pisces. So yeah, I think that it's very, very interesting to see how everything is affecting you. I look at transits, um, progressions, solar return, what houses the outer planets are in, everything, right? To kind of give you an idea, a big picture idea of where you're at. The progressed lunar cycle is something I'm big on. So yeah, let me know about that. But either way, and let me just take this out. Yeah, either way, it's been a pleasure, and I look forward to speaking. So just let me know when you want to schedule that, if you want to add the current astro. Besides that, ciao, ciao, ciao.